afternoon, guys. All right, so we're going to go over two things because I keep forgetting that this unit doesn't have um, section questions. That is just the IDs that you're doing because there are several more pages in your packet for you to do content, vocabulary review, and some stories. We've got a lot to get into this week. We've got conspiracy theories to look at and talk about, and a lot of fun stuff. And if you have time, I've got extra videos for you to look at as well. So we're going to start today going over it's Kennedy and the Cold War, your review sheet. We're going to look at questions 1 through 8. Yeah, we're going to go through questions 1 through 8 for today. All right, number 1 says, name the two candidates in the 1960 election. So the Democrat is Kennedy and the Republican is Nixon. And again, this follows along with the notes that I did in the video from 30 minutes ago. Number 2, well, why was religion an issue? And again, this has to do with your bell ringer question today. So Kennedy's the first Catholic president, which was a really big deal. I mean, in a very traditional Christian society, we had never had a Catholic president before, just like in the 2012 election when Mitt Romney went up against Obama. If Mitt Romney had won, he would have been our first Mormon president. We'd never had a Mormon president, so that was a really big deal. So religion did play a role, but obviously not big enough a role because Kennedy did win that election. Number 3, what was unique about the debate held? It was the first televised. I mean, that was huge. TV is the #1 new piece of technology. Everybody has one. You know, this is something that you save up for and it goes in the living room. It's not like today where we have TVs in just about every single room of the house, but and of course they're limited to channels, 2, maybe 3 channels tops. CBS, NBC, maybe the beginning of ABC. Maybe that's right. I can't remember the third one, but anyway. So the debate was on every channel. Like, there's no turning it. And again, there's no controls for most of these first TVs. You have to get up and turn the volume, get up and turn the channel. So anyway, first televised debate for number 3. Number 4, who led a communist takeover of Cuba? That is Fidel Castro. Happens in 1959. Fidel Castro, and we see our neighbor start to fall to communism. It's a little scary. Leads to problems later on. Keep that in mind for tomorrow's lesson. Number 5, name the failed invasion of Cuba in which the U.S. helped arm and train non-communist Cubans to retake their nation. That is the Bay of Pigs incident, and it blows up in our faces. We're trying to do it quietly. We're trying to arm and train Cuban rebels and sneak them back to Cuba to overthrow Castro. Doesn't work, blows up in our faces, and they pretty much are like, we know you were behind it. You owe us an explanation. So not a good situation, because then the Soviet Union gets involved. It's a whole big thing. All right, where are we at? Number 6 says, in 1961, the Soviet Union would build this structure and unknowingly create a symbol for communism. It is the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall goes up, and we see an actual physical division between communist Eastern Europe and a democratic Western Europe. So, Berlin Wall. Number 7, what was found in Cuba in October of '62? Nuclear missiles. Nuclear missiles, which will, of course, lead to the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's coming as well. Number 8, what was our eventual response to the findings? We're going to blockade Cuba. Blockade Cuba. Again, this whole situation is known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. We're freaking out. People are building underground bomb shelters. We're practicing duck and cover in the schools. I mean, it's crazy. Okay. All right. Stop there with your review sheet. We'll continue with it the rest of the week. And now go to your guided reading page 24-1. Fill in the blank and follow along with me. In 1960, a youthful John F. Kennedy narrowly defeated Richard Nixon in the presidential campaign. Number 1 says, in the 1960 presidential race, both major parties made substantial use of television, TV. Number 2, the campaign centered on the economy and the Cold War. Those are the 2 hot topics. Economy, Cold War. JFK and his family gave the nation a youthful, enthusiastic first family. And in the 1960 election, Kennedy narrowly won the popular vote, and his victory in the Electoral College, that's your answer, Electoral College, was 303 votes to 219. Don't forget, it is the Electoral College votes that determine the winner. Number 4, Kennedy's inaugural address called on citizens for your blank, to take a more active role in making the nation a better place. Because again, his quote, and it's in the notes that are coming tomorrow, I'll go ahead and post it probably in just a few, but it says, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. There you go. Despite an uneasy relationship with Congress, President Kennedy managed to get several parts of his domestic agenda passed, although Democrats, that's your answer, Democrats, had majorities in both houses of Congress. Kennedy was unable to push through many of his domestic programs. Again, it's those Dixiecrats, those Southern Democrats that are stopping him. In an effort to increase growth and create more jobs, Kennedy advocated deficit spending. Deficit spending. So deficit spending is when you're spending more than you have. You only have 20, you spend 25, you had to borrow from somebody, right? Deficit spending. Number 7 says Kennedy's conflict with steel companies, steel, S-T-E-E-L, steel companies, strained his relationship with the business community. Number 8 says Kennedy asserted that lower taxes, that's the first blank, lower taxes, meant businesses would have more money to expand, and that as they expanded, they would create new jobs. New jobs. Under Chief Justice Earl Warren, the Supreme Court issued a number of decisions that altered the voting system, expanded due process, and reinterpreted aspects of the First Amendment. Number 9 says in 1964 in Reynolds v. Sims, the court required states to redraw district lines so that all citizens' votes would have equal weight. Number 10 says in the 1960s, the Supreme Court ruled in several cases that upholding due process, meaning everybody has to follow the same rules and guidelines, due process, meant applying the Federal Bill of Rights to the states. Last 2, number 11. In the 1966 Miranda v. Arizona case, the court required that authorities immediately inform criminal suspects of their rights. Miranda v. Arizona, that's a big court case. The 1960s saw a lot of major court cases come out. And the Miranda v. Arizona is the one where they talk about they have to Mirandarize you. Like if they're taking you in, you're handcuffed and they're charging you with something, and they're taking you in for questioning, they have to read you your rights. Or Mirandarize you is probably what you hear. Number 12, during the Kennedy years, the Supreme Court also handed down decisions that affirmed the separation of church and state. I know it's a lot for one blank. Separation of church and state. There you go. Okay. So that's where we're stopping for today. Again, this packet does have a lot of stories and review for you to do over this week, as well as some fun and exciting videos, because we got some conspiracy theories to talk about this week. We've got the conspiracy theory behind the Kennedy assassination and the conspiracy theory behind landing on the moon. So if you get a chance, watch those extra videos. It's good stuff. All right, bye for now, guys.